Hello there, we are in front of Union Station right now, and I would sincerely love to tell you everything that Henry James ever thought or wrote about Union Station, or tell you how many times he visited, but unfortunately Union Station was not open to the public until 1907. Thus, Henry James probably didn't think much of it because that was 2 years after he last visited D.C., at least that I know of. So, Union Station, everyone. In his travel writings, Henry James says, "The effect of the fine Washington obelisk rather spends or wastes itself, not a little as if some loud monosyllable had been uttered in a preoccupied company, without a due production of sympathy or sense." We are here in the Rock Creek Cemetery in D.C. right now. The cemetery was founded in 1719, and Henry James visited it in 1905 because, unfortunately, one of his dear friends is buried here. This is the grave of Clover Adams that we're entering right now. She's the wife of Henry Adams, the grandson of John Quincy Adams, and the man after whom half the Hay Adams Hotel is named. Henry James met Clover Adams, as I said, in Cambridge, and he found her to be a woman with a touch of genius. He quite admired her. He visited and stayed with her and her husband in D.C., and they met up in their travels in Europe and in the U.S. frequently. She was rather shocked when James decided to move to London. She thought that was an appalling thing for him to do. And of him as a novelist, she said, and for the sake of this quote, we will assume that to chaw means to chew. She said, "It's not that he bites off more than he can chaw, but that he chaws more than he bites off." So she thought he was a tad long-winded. Unfortunately, Clover Adams committed suicide in 1885. This was shortly after the suicide of her father, and it was written off that she had done it as a result of hereditary melancholy, so essentially depression. She got depressed and killed herself. James said at her death that she had found the solution of the knottiness of existence. Knottiness is in a knot that you would tie. It's an interesting thing to say about someone who committed suicide. Her husband, Henry Adams, had this sculpture made to go with her grave, and it was erected in 1891, 6 years after her death. And Adams advised the sculptor of the statue to contemplate Buddhist devotional art for inspiration. He looked at a lot of Buddhists. And there was a male model used for the body, but interestingly the face is based on the face of a woman. Not necessarily the face of Clover Adams, but just it's meant to be somewhat ambiguous. The statue is here for people to contemplate and just basically think over life and death and things like that. And it's not marked, so if you don't know the history of the statue, you won't know who is buried here. So it's very interesting. And the public, for the sake of simplicity, named the statue Grief, and that's what it's commonly called, but that angered Henry Adams. He wrote a letter to the son of the sculptor in 1908 and said, "Do not allow the world to tag my figure with a name. Every magazine writer wants to label it as some American patent medicine for popular consumption. Grief, despair, Pear's soap, or Macy's men's suits made to measure. Your father meant it to ask a question, not to give an answer." Henry Adams died in 1918, just 2 years after his friend Henry James, and Adams was buried in this plot with his wife. Right now we are at Mount Vernon. It is currently near the end of April, and as far as I can tell, Henry James visited in 1905, and he visited in May, so we're pretty close to the time of year when he would have been here. And he goes on for several pages in his travel writings about Mount Vernon. He was quite a fan of it. I don't know if you can see that the Potomac River is right on the other side of the house. If you don't know, this is George Washington's house. That's what Mount Vernon is. And of the estate, Henry James said, "The old high-placed house unquestionably is charming, and the felicity of the whole scene on such a day as that of my impression, scarce to be uttered."
The light of nature was there, splendid and serene. The Potomac opened out in its grandest manner, but it was not for a moment to be said that this was the whole story. The human interest and the human charm lay in wait and held one fast. The whole thing is Washington, not his invention and his property, but his presence and his person, with discriminations, as distinguished from enthusiasms, as invidious and unthinkable as if they were addressed to his very ears. The beauty of the sight, meanwhile, as we stand there, becomes but the final aspect of the man, under which everything conduces to a single great representative image.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to this, the final clip of my Petition project. I'm glad you made it this far. I am currently in the National Portrait Gallery. I started the film clips in the courtyard of the National Portrait Gallery, but now we are among the exhibits. I am being creepily stared at by a statue of Whistler. There he is. But that's not what we're here to look at. We are here to look at a particular portrait, namely Henry James. Say hello to Henry. This painting was done in 1908. Henry James was visiting Edith Wharton, an author and a friend of his, in France, and she convinced him to sit for a painting. He liked this painting quite a lot because it, quote, disguised his girth, aka made him look thinner. Little vein there, Henry. But in any case, of the painting, he said, and I quote from the sign, "It ought to be seen in the U.S. Well, here it is in the U.S. I'm seeing it, you're seeing it. Presumably a large amount of the public is seeing it at some time or another, so that worked out quite nicely. Thank you so much for watching my Petition project video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing it. I hope that despite my shortcomings as a tour guide, you will at some point visit D.C., maybe check out the parts that Henry James visited. I've fallen in love with the city throughout my internship, so definitely recommend visiting. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your semester and that you all have a wonderful summer.
After you, dear boy. No, after you. No, do go first. I'm not really very good at the high bits. I'm much better low.
Well, we'll see.
1, 2, and...
The western wind is blowing fair across the dark Aegean Sea,
And at the secret marble stair, my Tyrian galley waits for thee.
come down the purple sail is spread.
The watchman sleeps within the town.
Oh, leave thy lily flowered bed.
Oh, lady mine,
Come down, come down, lady, come down.